We'll talk about what it's like to travel here in terms of people and safety, places of interest, and I'll share some secret spots at the end of the video, as well as a country score. The country as a whole has a population of only 2.5 million-ish people, so that's next to nothing. It's a big country, Botswana. The term African time is definitely real. When people say now, that usually means anything from 15 minutes to 3 hours. You just have to be patient. Botswana is very, very safe. I've never ever felt unsafe or had a dodgy vibe when traveling in Botswana, and that's a great thing. People are very friendly here, and yeah, it's just some petty crime here and there, but that goes for any country in the world. Chobe, that's in the northwest or north of the country. Amazing game view there. You can drive along the river. Great for self-driving, and you can do day trips as well, or guided safaris. Then you have Moremi Game Reserve, very close to Maun if that's where you land. I think Maun is the safari capital here. You also have some other places around Moremi that I'm going to share when we cover the secret spots in Botswana. In Moremi now, and we just started to drive 100 meters from camp. We found 8 lions and another 2, so a total of at least 10 lions. Then you have Central Kalahari Game Reserve. I think that would be my absolute favorite place there. I think it's one of the most remote places you can visit on this planet, so exclusive in that sense of being truly by yourself, because not many people go there. The best time to visit Central Kalahari is in the green season, I think, because in the dry season it's not much to find there, even though they have water holes. Then you have the Makadigari Pans, where you'll find places such as Kubu Island with loads of cool baobab trees. Not much game there or animals, but it's definitely worth a visit. It's really cool to drive on these long salt flats in the dry season. Great place. Then down southwest you have the Kalahari Transfrontier Park and Mabuasehube, another favorite of mine. Also very remote, not many people go there.
Rett utenfor.
In Botswana you also do wild camping. That means no fences, so wildlife or wild animals will come into camp, such as hyenas, sometimes even lions. So Botswana has a good variety of places you can visit, but it's mostly flat here, so I think landscape photographers would be disappointed. But wildlife photographers, this is heaven. One of the best countries in the world for wildlife photography, 100%. Botswana is definitely not a cheap country to travel in. Many of my friends has the misconception that this is Africa, then it must be cheap, but that is not the case. I think the cheapest option for safaris is to do a self-drive safari. Then you feel like you're on adventure as well, or more of an adventure. But if you don't want to do self-drive, you can do guided safaris, but that is more expensive by far. It's not that easy to book. You have to know where to book campsites if you want to do anything yourself, but the car rental companies will usually help you out with that, such as Bushlore, where we got our car from. If you want to do more higher end safaris, you can definitely do that as well. That's more available when you do Google searches, but it also comes at a very steep price. I think the most expensive lodges out in the Okavango Delta is like $2,500 per person per night, but that's the top of the line lodges. You can get them from $600-ish per person per night, but it's still very, very expensive. But that's normally all inclusive with guides, with meals and drinks, etc, etc. Special things about Botswana you should think about is to carry cash, especially if you do the self-drive. They don't always have a card machine at the gates, so if you don't carry cash and if you have to pay at the gate, you have to have some cash with you. I always carry like 2,000 pula. That's about $150 in cash, just in case. But in the shops and filling stations in town, they normally have a card machine, so that's not a problem. But at the gates, going into the parks, always carry cash. For photography, Botswana is absolutely heaven for the wildlife photographer. You can expect to find so much game here, and it's wonderful. The rainy season is my favorite. That's when it's green and you have better photographic light, or there's a better chance of good photographic light since you have overcast days, versus the dry season when there is much more game at waterholes. You will have a higher chance of finding a lot of animals, together also the predators. But I always like the rainy season better, when it's green and lush and just wonderful. The best place I would go to if you're a first timer in Africa would be Moremi Game Reserve. That's where you'll find everything. At least 4 of the big 5 there is a good chance of seeing. I've had some excellent lion sightings there. Obviously there is no guarantee since this is Africa and you have to expect the unexpected. In Central Kalahari Game Reserve, that is where I've had my favorite lion sightings. Great for predators, especially in the rainy season. I don't know about the dry season because I haven't been there in the dry season, but I don't think there is a lot to get there then, even though they have waterholes there. The same goes for Kalahari or Mabuasehube. I haven't been there in the dry season, but the rainy season is fantastic. It's an arid park, so you won't find many elephants or crocodiles or hippos or anything like that because it's very far away from water. But you will find a lot of predators. And it's far, so there's a good chance you'll have the whole park to yourself. In 2021 and 22, I was there almost by myself. I had 1 or maybe 2 cars at the most at any given time. So it was absolutely wonderful, and you're in a truly wild place and you can get some awesome images. Nice to know about Botswana. Border crossings into Botswana is not a problem. It's usually quite fast-ish. You have to have African time in the back of your head there. Just remember that it can be slow, but it's not a problem at all. Don't bring any meat, eggs or dairy products. There is a good chance they will search your car on the border. So just spend everything that you bought before crossing the border. And if you try to book anything online, that's usually through email, you have to expect very slow response times and usually have at least 1 or 2 follow-up emails. If you try to book through DWNP, that's Department of Wildlife and National Parks, and the most affordable campsites, you just have to book way in advance, because it takes a lot of time and you have to fill out a credit card authorization form, email back to them, and then you'll get a confirmation after some time. I even had to send a follow-up email just to get that. So I think for Central Kalahari this year, that's where we're going later, it took 4 weeks from the first email to getting the confirmation of our campsite. So have that in mind and book way in advance to get everything you want when you're doing self-drive safari, or especially if you're doing self-drive safari. If you're a spontaneous traveler that wants to just rock up at the gates and see what's available, I wouldn't do that in the peak season. That's between June and September, because it's usually full, at least the good campsites. You can do it, of course, but I wouldn't bet on it. So Moremi would be full for sure, and the areas around Moremi definitely full. I'm sure you could get Central Kalahari no problem at all in the peak season, because it's so dry and not many people go there then. Book in advance, that's the safest option. You can get lucky, of course, but yeah, it's not recommended at all. Then you have to be super positive and smile a lot, because if you end up being frustrated by a lack of service or a perceived lack of service, you will get nowhere. A smile goes a long way, and I've converted a lot of no's into yeses just by being persistent, positive and smiley. Yeah, if you get frustrated and angry, that will turn a no maybe into a definitely no 100%. So have that in mind when you're traveling in Botswana. Now, before we talk about the secret locations that I'm going to share with you, please do like this video and hit subscribe if you aren't already. That would be awesome, and it makes sense if you've come this far. The first secret location I've already mentioned. It's not really secret, but that's the Central Kalahari Game Reserve. And the best campsite there, if you book way in advance, is Quarry number 3 in Deception Valley. There's another one in Piper Pan, but that's on the other side of the park. And the best campsite there is Piper 1. I'll leave a link to all the resources you need if you want to book them down in the show notes. Another secret spot is just outside Muremi Game Reserve. It's called Kasinkini. It's community run, so you support the community. You don't even have to enter Muremi Game Reserve to get there, so you skip all the conservation and park fees and you just pay directly to the community. I don't know if they even have a website or an email address. There's an office in town here in Maun, but if I find it, I'll leave that also down in the description. Then there is Mabuasehube, which is part of the Khalahadi Transfrontier Park. That's my favorite place. Did I say favorite place already in other places? I have so many favorites. But it's just amazing there. The landscape, the game view, and yeah, the remoteness of that place is awesome. And the favorite campsite is Mpaya 1 or Mpaya 2. The best view is from Mabua, campsite number 3, I think, 2 or 3. But those are my secret spots in Botswana. Of course, there are so many others, and you just have to do your own research. It's a bit hard or tricky to find information about booking these things, but if you do your research, I'm sure you'll find hundreds of other gems of places as well. Alrighty then, let's give Botswana a country score, and I have to give a 7 out of 10. No full score for Botswana because of a few things. The very cumbersome booking system and very little information if you want to do your self-drive safari unless you are watching this video. Because here you'll get all the good info and all the links to the right people in case you want to book. But perhaps that is why Botswana is still so wild, because not many people find out these things when they do their self-drive safari. I don't know. But when I think about it, let's give Botswana an 8 out of 10 because of the wildness of the country. And maybe that's a good thing. It's so slow and cumbersome to book because, yeah, then you get everything for yourself. But it is getting more and more known out there because of YouTube and Instagram and all these social media and the internet. So if you want to experience Botswana and have a wild experience, I think now is the time. If you have any questions about Botswana or traveling in Botswana, you can ask the questions down below, and I hope to see you in the next video.